With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories.
PLP leader Dr. Timothy Harris condemns lack of transparency in Christophe Harbour sale. Scaling up geothermal energy, regional cooperation and innovation at Global Island Summit 2025. New era dawns for Christophe Harbour following landmark sale to Safe Harbor Marinas LLC.
9 St. Kitts Nevis nationals return home under the Trump administration's deportation regime.
Director for the Center for International and Border Studies sees need for international military force for Guyana. St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority announces immediate port changes amid growing pressure from protesting truckers. Internationally, Pakistan, India pulling back border troops, top Pakistani general says.
Now, the details.
The Global Sustainable Islands Summit 2025, held in St. Kitts and Nevis from May 27th through 29th, has brought renewed focus to the pivotal role of geothermal energy in the Caribbean's sustainable future. Among the compelling discussions, the session titled Scaling Up Geothermal Energy in the Caribbean, Regional Cooperation, Investment and Innovation, has underscored how collaborative efforts across the region are essential to overcoming climate vulnerabilities and accelerating the transition to renewable energy sources. The session, led by the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States (OECS), brought together prominent policymakers, private sector leaders, and international envoys to articulate a unified vision and address the practical challenges faced by small island developing states in harnessing their geothermal resources. The Honorable Conress Maynard, Minister of Energy and Utilities for the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis and Chair of the OECS Council of Ministers of Energy, opened with a personal reflection on the significance of this juncture for his federation.
I first want to say that this time is a critical time for us here, especially in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, because for the first time really, you have tremendous amount of political will to make this a reality. I am Kitty Nevisian, meaning I was born in St. Kitts. My mother is from Nevis. My father is from St. Kitts. My grandfather is from Nevis. My other grandfather is from St. Kitts. I am truly a son of both Nevisian soil and Kittitian soil. However, it is true that we have had some challenges in aligning in terms of our vision going forward when it comes to a number of things, and in particular geothermal. But from when we got into this administration in 2022, at the federal level, we made a conscious decision that we believe that geothermal development is not just in the interest of Nevis or my family in Ramsbury or Gingerland, but also for the family in Sandy Point or St. Paul's on the other end of St. Kitts. And that this is a resource that God has blessed our federation with, and we at the federal level will spare no effort to make sure it is maximized.
Minister Maynard conveyed the historical context in which St. Kitts and Nevis had long believed it lacked natural resources up until now, recognizing geothermal energy as the federation's
our own gold, our own bauxite, our own oil and gas, our own lumber.
However, he acknowledged the steep challenges unique to small island states, including limited financial capacity to secure the best global technical expertise.
We simply don't. We don't have the fiscal space. And so we need partnership. And St. Kitts and Nevis is not coming with just open hands or open arms. We are doing what we can do with the limited resources that we have. And so that is why forums like these are so very critical.
Among the critical obstacles he identified were the absence of legally defined geothermal regulatory frameworks specific to the sector. To address this, he advocated for
geothermal specific regulations that clearly establishes project phases, rights of access, and penalties for non-performance.
He envisioned the OECS Commission and the St. Lucia Electricity Regulatory Commission playing leading roles in developing template legislation and assisting with technical reviews to modernize regulatory environments. Another challenge highlighted was the fragmented permitting process that often delay project execution. Minister Maynard called for a standardized permitting roadmap or green print that would guide OECS states through clear stages of approval and oversight for geothermal projects from exploration to commissioning, ensuring smoother and more efficient coordination. A further key concern is financing, particularly for the mid-stage development of geothermal projects.
Many facilities either fund the very early stages, a little test well here, a little feasibility study here, but not the middle part where you need the real heavy weight of financing.
Underlining the necessity for dedicated mid-stage financing mechanisms to support activities like production, drilling, and grid impact assessments, he praised the Caribbean Development Bank's innovative contingency recoverable grant mechanisms, which absorbs the drilling risk for investors.
If you drill and you find something, then you're ours. If you drill and you don't find something, that is our gift to you,
thereby unlocking additional funding. The minister concluded with a call to embed technical capacity in public institutions and establish a regional expert roster linked to an on-demand technical assistance facility to ensure sustainable project management and continuity. From a private sector perspective, Philip Julian, chairman of Kenneth J. Green Limited, emphasized the importance of indigenous regional investment in advancing the geothermal agenda.
Since we are ourselves private sector, we are indigenous to the region, as the chair picked up on, born out of Trinidad and Tobago, and growing into the Caribbean.
He highlighted Kenneth J. Green's partnership with Ansa McCall Group, a major regional conglomerate committed to pioneering sustainable energy projects, referencing their Memorandum of Understanding signed during COP28 in Dubai to explore geothermal opportunities together. Julian introduced the ambitious 20-megawatt Power-to-X project proposed in St. Kitts and Nevis' Energy Development Plan, which complements the ongoing 30-megawatt geothermal efforts. Elaborating on Power-to-X, he likened it to Trinidad and Tobago's historical Gas-to-X model, where natural gas monetized into globally tradable commodities like ammonia and menthol.
Because of the global environmental crisis that we all face, countries with surplus renewable energy, such as St. Kitts, Nevis, and Dominica, let's call that renewable power, have a Power-to-X opportunity. To monetize and export their fossil-free power to other parts of the world.
Highlighting the potential for innovative uses of renewable power beyond electricity generation, Julian discussed identified pathways for St. Kitts and Nevis, including power to ammonia or menthol production, leveraging new International Maritime Organization port requirements for green power to attract shipping businesses, and local industry opportunities such as green-powered desalination and sustainable tourism ventures. Notably, he emphasized the upcoming opportunity framing workshop sponsored by Ansel McCall Group, set for June, which aims to prioritize geothermal-driven industrial projects aligned with regional sustainable development goals. His message was one of optimism rooted in pragmatism.
The size and scale of the transformation and development being described over the past couple of minutes is significant, and it will take substantial effort, but it can be done. We just have to look at Trinidad. But what we also learned in Trinidad is we cannot do it alone. It's going to require all of us working together as private sector, as public sector, closer than ever before.
Rebecca Fabrizi, the UK envoy for Small Island Developing States, SIDS, contextualized the challenges faced by Caribbean islands within broader geopolitical and economic constraints.
We work a lot on trying to help improve access to finance that we recognize as being very difficult, and economic diversification, and the effectiveness of development financing.
Stressing that nearly all SIDS grapple with energy insecurity and high electricity costs, Fabrizi outlined 4 principal barriers: regulatory limitations, technical capacity shortages, financial constraints, and the need for unified political commitment. Regarding regulation, she identified gaps including the absence of cost-relative tariffs, integrated resource plans, and permitting frameworks, while noting progress in countries such as Barbados and Jamaica.
Jamaica has been, I think, the first country in the Caribbean to implement competitive procurement framework for independent power producers.
Regarding technical challenges, Fabrizi acknowledged the generational struggle to advance geothermal projects, including Nevis's own experience. She highlighted UK-backed initiatives that are de-risking geothermal exploration through grant funding in Dominica, Montserrat, St. Lucia, and Grenada, facilitated by partnerships with organizations like Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, and the World Bank. Financially, she observed the high upfront costs required for geothermal development and the difficulties small island developing states (SIDS) face in securing grants and attracting private investment, particularly for mid-stage funding.
When there are funds available, we get bids which really exceed the amount of money available.
Finally, Fabrizi emphasized the political challenges inherent in achieving economies of scale needed for sustainable geothermal markets, calling for
political agreement regionally to make sure that those biggest wins can be really achievable.
She indicated that organizations like CRI and CARICOM play vital roles in leading strategy and governance, but acknowledged the complexity of balancing climate ambitions with economic and environmental considerations. Despite the hurdles, she expressed strong commitment from the UK and international partners. She cautioned that without diversified funding approaches and robust political will, the pace will be really slow, but affirmed enthusiasm for ongoing collaboration to realize geothermal's promise.
I think that looking at how these resource-intensive industries can be attracted here while protecting the important environments here as well is great, but sharing, selling, which countries are really willing to buy, not only to sell energy, these are all things that require some good political discussions. If we're going to rely on public funding, then the pace will be really slow. So we see lots of potential. We are really looking forward to continuing to be a partner here and hope that we can work together to overcome these challenges.
The vibrant discourse at the Global Island Summit 2025 conveys a clear message. Geothermal energy represents a transformative opportunity for the Caribbean's sustainable future, yet success depends on coordinated regional action, innovative financing mechanisms, regulatory modernization, and inclusive partnerships spanning government, the private sector, and international allies. With St. Kitts and Nevis poised to lead once again, the Federation's blend of historical resilience and emerging political will could become a beacon, lighting the way toward a clean energy renaissance across the Eastern Caribbean. In an address to the nation, PLP leader, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, voiced concern over the Drew administration's handling of the Christophe Harbour Marina sale, criticizing what he describes as a troubling absence of transparency. Dr. Harris laid bare a series of alleged broken promises and unfulfilled obligations that have left the people of St. Kitts and Nevis burdened with unresolved debts and unanswered questions. Speaking directly to the nation, Dr. Harris demanded clarity on several critical fronts: the missing US $17 billion in promised economic investment, unpaid arrears to key public institutions including the National Bank, SCELEC, and Social Security, and undisclosed concessions granted to the new marina owners. His address painted a stark picture of a project that, despite lofty commitments, has failed to deliver the anticipated benefits while public coffers bear the costs of unfinished development.
I speak to you not out of partisanship, but from a position of very deep national concern. The recent public statement issued by Prime Minister Drew on the sale of Christophe Harbour's marina assets was dressed in the language of transparency, but it was glaringly devoid of actual transparency. He proclaimed openness, yet he has refused to reveal the terms of the purchase agreement, the identity of all beneficiaries, or the concessions extended to the new owners of one of our nation's most prized coastal assets. Let me ask plainly, what are the details of the purchaser agreement? What tax breaks and incentives were promised to safe harbor marinas, and for how long? Why is the public still in the dark about the value of the sale and how the proceeds were in fact distributed?
Dr. Harris recalled the original commitments made nearly 2 decades ago, highlighting a development agreement signed by Christophe Harbour's developers and the government in 2005. The agreement pledged to generate over US $17 billion in economic activity over 20 years, with the developers agreeing to fully finance essential infrastructure improvements such as roads, utilities, drainage, and more, at their own expense. In addition, the developers were granted sweeping government concessions, including 20 years of exemptions from customs duties, stamp taxes, and consumption taxes, as well as import waivers for fuel and reductions in stamp duty rates on high-value real estate transactions. Despite this extensive support, Dr. Harris revealed the developers diverged sharply from their obligations.
Rather than financing the infrastructure as promised, the developers borrowed millions from National Bank, the People's Bank, to construct the Christopher Harbour Marina and Customs House. This was in complete contradiction to the assigned commitment to self-finance the entire build-out.
The consequences are stark. A marina and customs facilities built with public funds, accompanied by over $49 million in arrears owed to the National Bank. Only a fraction of that debt, approximately $2.7 million, was reportedly recouped in the recent sale of the marina assets. Meanwhile, nearly $6 million remains owed to Skelec and over $4.5 million to Social Security, with both sums only partially satisfied. Dr. Harris underscored that the promised economic boom has failed to materialize.
Not even a fraction of the promised US $17 billion in national economic benefit has materialized as the 20-year agreement period comes to an end in 2025.
He emphasized that the 20-year customs and judiciary concession granted to Christopher Harbour is now expiring or has expired, and crucially, the developers have not met the fundamental terms of their own agreement. Despite these failures, Dr. Harris accused the current government of glossing over the truth.
The Prime Minister wants us to accept that this is a triumph of governance. He offers vague statements about a successful sale, but has yet to disclose the following pertinent information to the public: the total value of the sale, the concession terms offered to the new buyer, the outstanding amount still owed to our national institutions, or make a clear statement and how the original developer will be held accountable for defaulting on its contractual obligations.
Dr. Harris confidently pledged that under PLP governance, this, quote, injustice to our people will not be swept under the rug, end quote.
We will demand the full release of the purchaser agreement and concession terms. We will conduct a full audit of the Christopher Harbour project from inception to sale. We will vigorously pursue full repayment of any and all outstanding debts owed to public institutions. And if required, we will activate compulsory acquisition powers to recover lands, assets, or revenues due to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
His words carried a clear warning.
We must never allow foreign developers to walk away with our resources while failing to fulfill their promises. We must never allow any administration, past or present, to sign away our future in the name of foreign investment without enforcing accountability. This is not just a breach of a contract. It is a blatant breach of the public trust, and this administration is complicit in this betrayal.
Dr. Harris urged the people to remain watchful and vocal.
So I said to you, the people, stay vigilant, ask the hard questions, demand the full truth and nothing but the truth, and rest assured that the PLP government will not rest until the nation is made whole again.
Dr. Harris's address marks a decisive moment in the ongoing public discourse about Christopher Harbour, a development once heralded as a cornerstone of national progress but now mired in controversy, debt, and unkept promises. A new chapter has officially begun for the Southeast Peninsula with the sale of the marina assets and operations at Christopher Harbour to Safe Harbour Marinas LLC, a development Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew describes as a
strategic move, a decisive correction and a powerful turning point
for the Federation. The announcement marks a significant pivot from years of stalled progress and controversy towards sustained economic growth and good governance. In an official statement delivered on May 29, 2025, Prime Minister Drew outlined the multifaceted benefits the transaction brings to St. Kitts and Nevis, underscoring transparency and accountability throughout the negotiation process that had previously eluded administrations.
What some once viewed as a symbol of mismanagement, rooted in years of political opacity under the former administration, will now become a beacon of transparency, opportunity, and international prestige under this administration.
Christophe Harbour, once fraught with unfulfilled promises and underdevelopment, had previously stirred public discontent. Residents and stakeholders vocally criticized the project for its decade-long dormancy and the failure to deliver on the visionary plans initially heralded by its founder, Charles Buddy Darby III. A petition titled Rescue Christophe Harbour brought to light frustrations over the lack of progress, citing abandoned facilities and a paucity of employment opportunities for locals, pleading for government intervention to either hold the developers accountable or reclaim the property for the public good. The new ownership by Safe Harbor Marinas, the world's largest marina operated with over 135 locations globally serving 40,000 boat owners, promises to reverse that narrative. Prime Minister Drew highlighted Safe Harbor's immediate commitments, most notably a 40% expansion of the marina by November 2025 and the construction of a new desalination plant to restore vital freshwater supplies to the facility. The expanded marina will accommodate up to 32 mega yachts of vessels averaging 60 meters with crew and affluent guests, catalyzing hundreds of well-paying jobs and stimulating demand across hospitality, transportation, provisioning, and marine maintenance sectors, a core tenet of the government's Sustainable Blue Economy initiative. The economic impact from the sale also entails nearly $25 million in direct payments to key public institutions addressing long-standing debts that have burdened the Federation.
Specifically, the sale has facilitated the payment of EC $4.5 million to Social Security Board, EC $2.4 million to SCELEC, EC $5.7 million to the Sugar Industry Diversification Fund, or SIDF, EC $2.8 million to the National Bank Trust, and EC $2.7 million directly to the National Bank. Additionally, EC $3 million has been paid toward outstanding property tax arrears, and EC $3.6 million in stamp duties.
The Prime Minister hails these resolutions as bringing closure and clarity to debts left unpaid for many years under prior governance. Importantly, this sale and infusion of capital signals alignment with St. Kitts and Nevis' Sustainable Island State Agenda, a roadmap emphasizing good governance, environmental stewardship, and social inclusivity. Prime Minister Drew summarized this vision.
Today, Christophe Harbour has written a new chapter to become a vibrant investment hub as part of our quest to become a sustainable island state.
While past setbacks cast a long shadow marked by halted developments, unmet promises, and opaque financial dealings, the government's transparent approach and Safe Harbor's global expertise offers renewed optimism. Critics had long lamented delays, irresponsibility, and missed opportunities at the site, but with this decisive transfer, the Federation anticipates revitalized regional prominence as a premier Caribbean yachting destination. In closing, the Prime Minister expressed unwavering confidence in the partnership's prospects.
This is what good governance looks like. As Prime Minister and as a government, I assure you that every step we take is grounded in our sustainable island state agenda, with our people at the center.
The revitalization of Christophe Harbour is poised not only to stimulate immediate economic growth, but also to restore trust and pride among Kittitians and divisions, heralding a future where the Federation's natural and maritime assets are fully leveraged for the benefit of all.
Nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis were among the millions of immigrants who were affected by the strong enforcement of immigration policies in the United States, a clear example of a no-tolerance approach for immigration violations. According to law enforcement in St. Kitts and Nevis, 9 nationals were deported to the Federation from the United States within the first 5 months of 2025. President Donald Trump acted upon one of his key campaign promises by enforcing enforcing immigration policies. He emphasized that anyone, regardless of their nationality, who entered the country by illegal means, overstayed or breached the laws in the United States may face serious consequences. In light of the Trump administration's aggressive immigration crackdown, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in St. Kitts and Nevis have advised the citizens to obey America's immigration laws to avoid deportation, arrest, fines, travel bans, revocation of visas, lengthy incarcerations, or other legal consequences. The United States also notified other countries that governments that do not cooperate with the repatriation of their nationals may also face broader travel restrictions. Further, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in St. Kitts and Nevis advised that there is a voluntary departure program introduced by the United States Department of Homeland Security for individuals who are present in the United States unlawfully. Depending on the case, financial or other support may be provided for their departure. St. Kitts and Nevis's Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, at his round table on May 13, 2025, acknowledged that, like the Federation, the United States has the right to enforce its immigration policies. He added, however, that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis will welcome all nationals home with open arms and will continue to ask that they be respected and treated humanely.
With respect to people being sent back, as I said it in a statement, and I think I put it out. If you are a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, wherever you are in the world, this is your country. We will not deny you to come back, even from the United States, England, Europe, wherever you come from. Enable string barrier, as we say, then this is your country. I, as the Prime Minister, will ensure all I ask others is to treat our citizens with humanity and respect, irrespective of everything else. You can be firm with the law, but you can be firm without breaking or violating human rights. People still have human rights that you seek as much as possible to respect. And that's all that we ask for.
While the matter of mass deportation unfolds, the Prime Minister explained that measures would be taken to ensure the security of the Federation is not jeopardized.
The other concept is we'll take measures to make sure we continue to protect our security. If anybody were to come back and be a security threat, we will do what we have to do, but their humanity will be respected.
As the Trump administration cracks down on illegal immigration by organizing mass deportation flights, Caribbean leaders have been closely monitoring the situation, including ways to help returning nationals reintegrate into society.
In regional news,
Director for the Center for International and Border Studies sees need for international military force for Guyana. News Source Guyana reports.
Let's tell you now that the director of the Center for International and Border Studies, Dr. Mark Curtin, is of the opinion that an international military mission should be among key plans on the agenda for Guyana, amid the increasing acts of aggression and provocation from neighboring Venezuela. Diplomacy has always been Guyana's first line of defense to the threat to its sovereignty and territorial integrity. But Dr. Curtin, while embracing this approach, said even as the territorial controversy remains before the International Court for final adjudication, Guyana should have an international military mission on standby.
Is that we should have already had some kind of military mission, right? Hemispheric. A deterrence mission, because our capacity militarily is known, but I believe that we could have a broadened regional security system, the RSS, to include Trinidad and Jamaica, which have substantial military forces, along with a broadened hemispheric grouping, the United States, Brazil, maybe some others, under the aegis of the United Nations.
In the past 5 months, there has been an incursion into Guyana's waters by a Venezuelan naval vessel and 4 attacks on Guyanese soldiers in the Cayenne River. Guyana has continued to make its case before the International Court, even as the Venezuelan government continues to dismiss the court's jurisdiction. Dr. Curtin, while convinced that the ICJ will rule in Guyana's favor, said given the stance taken by Caracas, there may very well be an issue and compliance on the part of the Spanish-speaking country whenever the court hands down its decision. He said it is therefore important for Guyana to adopt a multifaceted approach in which there is sustained interaction with both the local community and the country's international and potential allies, including its multilateral partners on Guyana's position.
And I believe that one recommendation could be that they should have a core of special envoys established, not necessarily only from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but from other places, that could go to capitals with a mandate to present the Guyana's position, not only on the short-term issue of elections and so on, by Venezuelan territory that's never claimed, that never owned or occupied by them, but also in the positions down the road, where we have to ensure that whatever is the outcome, and I think the outcome will be in Guyana's favor, that the issue of compliance is understood.
Dr. Curtin also made a case for greater emphasis on education. He said facts on the controversy should be included in the school's curriculum, from nursery to university.
The issue of borders should be added to the curriculum in schools and in university. You know, in Venezuela, from nursery to university, there's that particular argument about the rightness of their claim to Guyana. I don't think we have consistently had that kind of educational process unfolding in Guyana.
He has also proposed that a unit comprising government and non-governmental organizations and key stakeholders be established to conduct day-to-day analysis on the controversy and influence policy decision. It was also suggested that Guyanese, including local investors, be given incentives to develop industries and other businesses within the border communities.
St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority announces immediate port changes amid growing pressure from protesting truckers. DBS St. Lucia has that story.
The St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority has initiated measures to reduce congestion at Port Castries in response to protest action taken by truckers. In a statement issued late Wednesday, SLASPA announced that used vehicles would be relocated to Port V4. SLASPA also said that it is enhancing the clearance process for empty containers and designating additional truck queuing areas to improve traffic flow within the port. Speaking on the Newsmaker Live program on Wednesday, Leslie Jean-Baptiste, the managing director at Eagle Freight and Brokerage, stressed the need for the authorities to resolve the issue or face continued protest action.
I am rallying with the young truckers. We still have some of the older truckers who were there for the last 20 years. They are there, they are rallying with us, and I admire the strength of the truckers, and we are saying that enough is enough. We are tired, we have been patient, we are a key stakeholder in the supply chain, and we need to be engaged.
A meeting between truckers and SLASPA representative occurred on Thursday to address the ongoing situation. However, Jean-Baptiste pointed out that truckers have engaged in numerous discussions with SLASPA representatives, which have yet to result in meaningful action. He has called for broader stakeholder meetings to effectively address and manage the situation.
So we want someone else other than SLASPA from the higher authorities to say, okay, hey, I'm willing to step in.
Such as?
We're looking at the Minister of Infrastructure and Ports. Mm-hmm. At least we need to hear from him. We have not heard from him. So at least we expect to hear from him as soon as. Let us know that, okay, you're willing to do X, Y, and Z. And then we're going to, say, hey, we're going to go back. But we need to see something positive.
In its press statement, SLASPA emphasized that these new measures are part of a broader collaboration with the Customs Department, shipping lines, and trucking associations aimed at streamlining port operations. For the DBS Newsworld, Zin Romulus reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
We have almost come back to pre-22nd April situation.
Pakistan and India are pulling back troops built up along their shared border, approaching levels before the conflict between the nuclear-armed neighbours in the past weeks. That's according to Pakistan's General Zahir Shamshad Mirza, who, however, warned that the recent crisis in the disputed area of Kashmir has upped the risk of future escalation. He said the threshold for conflict has now been lowered after the attacks on both sides went further than Kashmir.
Previously, we used to be confined to the disputed territory. This time it has been in the international border. And now in the future even, it will not be restricted to the disputed territory. it would come down to whole of India and whole of Pakistan. So this is a very dangerous trend.
The spark for the latest and worst fighting in decades was a deadly April 22nd attack in Indian Kashmir. India blamed the incident on what it said were terrorists backed by Pakistan, which denied the charge. Both sides used fighter jets, missiles, drones and artillery in 4 days of clashes before a ceasefire was announced. Mirza is the most senior Pakistani military official to speak publicly since the conflict. He said Pakistan is open to dialogue, but that there was no communication between the two countries beyond some military crisis hotlines. India has maintained a hard line on any possible diplomatic solution. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said on Friday that, quote, if Pakistan is serious about talks, it should hand over terrorists to India so that justice is served. Its Defence Ministry and Chief of Defence Staff Office did not immediately respond to requests for comment on Mirza's remarks.
In this degraded patch of Colombia's Caribbean coast, forestry technician Anibal Noriega is bringing the mangroves back, 1 tree at a time. He's part of Vida Manglar, Colombia's first verified blue carbon project, which is protecting coastlines, storing carbon and transforming lives.
We're planting in areas that were damaged when water channels were blocked, turning into salt flats. Salt flats form when the water flow is interrupted. We don't use the same planting method everywhere. We've learnt this through the local community's empirical knowledge. Because they've lived here their whole lives, they understand how the ecosystem works better than anyone else.
Mangroves aren't just trees, but key climate allies. Yet across the Caribbean, nearly a third of mangroves have vanished in just 3 decades. Without urgent action, some could disappear entirely within a century.
Sitting here is difficult to imagine just how much these mangroves are doing for the climate, but below the surface the soil is capturing huge amounts of carbon, 10 times more than in a rainforest.
Now that carbon is being tracked and sold as credits to major companies, the project plans to store 1 million tons of CO2 in 30 years, while allowing communities to make sustainable use of the forest, from forestry to fishing.
We've achieved some significant milestones. The Vida Manglar program is both a national and international benchmark precisely because of all the achievements we've made, the communication between communities and the institution, and the roadmap we've established.
The project also protects endangered species like manatees. While some of the program's most dedicated conservationists were once the fauna's greatest threat.
This animal was known as the caiman aguja and was about to disappear.
With former hunters now leading the efforts to protect them.
For me, it's a source of pride. I'm proud to be a conservationist, and so is my family and my colleagues too, because this project has benefited us while saving the animals. Some of us didn't have a place to live. Now we have our little house, our own plot of land. Some of our children, thanks to the project, have been able to attend university, something we had never even imagined.
As Caribbean nations search for climate solutions, the communities of the Gulf of Morrosquillo are proving that protecting nature can also protect the future. Alessandro Rampietti, Al Jazeera, Gulf of Morrosquillo.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
PLP leader Dr. Timothy Harris condemns lack of transparency in Christophe Harbour sale. Scaling up geothermal energy, regional cooperation and innovation at Global Island Summit 2025. New era dawns for Christophe Harbour following landmark sale to Safe Harbor Marinas LLC.
9 St. Kitts Nevis nationals return home under the Trump administration's deportation regime.
Director for the Center for International and Border Studies sees need for international military force for Guyana. St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority announces immediate port changes amid growing pressure from protesting truckers. Internationally, Pakistan, India pulling back border troops, top Pakistani general says.
Thank you for listening.